Okay, welcome to the fourth video in the series of this Motomotion Crf450L rally build. Right now, like we do have the dash mounted, we figured it out. It's really hard to see in here, but the reason the hole was smaller is because they didn't want you to put the grommet in. The dash sat kind of crooked, so I've rebuilt it a bit so all three grommets are working. This section here is going to be a weak point, so we're going to do something about that, but we can't do that without getting rid of the key section. So what I've decided to do is the first thing we had to do was get rid of these guys. These are the bolts that hold the key cylinder in. They don't have any faces to them at all, like no internal hex or anything. So we just used a snap-on easy out and tapped it in and backed them out. They actually came out quite easily. You can see this, I don't know if you can see the spiral on there. That's how they actually locked those bolts in place, which left us with a ring that we didn't really want. So I'm just in the process right now. I've milled off this boss already that we don't need anymore, and I'm just in the process of getting rid of that key ring. We will talk to you in a bit when we're ready for the next section. Okay, so now all the machining has been done. Just taking off the boss to create the ring. It's not the best looking, but for 45 minutes on the mill, it's much cheaper than putting a set of billets there. I think what we're going to do for the ignition switch now is I'm going to make a switch plate for here, and it will house the main power switch for the bike as well as the main power switch for the tower. I believe we've got all our clearance issues settled out. We're going over to the stop, turning right. And to the left. So that has solved that issue. Now I believe what I'm going to do is mount the steering damper kit, because then I can move on with what we're going to do up here. But I want to get the triple clamps all finished up before I move forward with any tank mounting or finishing off the tower. So last section for this Sunday, I'm calling it a short day today. So I actually gonna go for a ride on my KTM. This is the upper tank mount. It's just in there loosely right now. I gotta figure out what is going on there for to secure the back side of it. The instructions, very sparse, don't really go into it. So I'll have to figure that out. This is the Fastway mount. It's been fun to get this on. This kit, no fault of Fastway's. This kit is actually for a Crf450R or the new 250R, which doesn't have a steering lock on it. So I've actually, I don't know if you can see that, but I've actually had to file down the top of the steering lock. Doesn't really matter, I've removed the key anyway, so just had to get that on. Now if you get a steering damper kit for a Crf450L, which hasn't been released yet, but when they do release it, you shouldn't have that problem. They'll have figured that out. The other thing, and I'm just going to try to grab this without losing focus because I'm reaching behind me. So this guy originally had this bracket. Now, the Crf450R's fuel tank sits much further back. You can see how that would work perfectly for a fuel tank sitting back there. Unfortunately, with this bracket, it's not going to fit. So I came up with this idea, which this is actually a magnetic speedo mount. A little bit of machining, I could get that up, fit it underneath. What I'd have to do is run tap the bottom of this steering post and put a bolt in through that. I didn't really like that idea. Nothing was really going to fit properly with it. So what I've come up with is this is a handlebar clamp. It is not product I'm going to be using, but it gave me the idea. If you slide this in, it fits perfectly onto the bottom of this guy. This post is there's threads, internal threads on both sides of this. So that's going to come back there, and then it's going to come down, and we're going to bolt it in to the top of this mount. I'll basically drill one hole in the center. There is one underneath there right now. Set up, it's 7.5 millimeters in diameter, so an 8 mil thread will go right in. So I'll have one 8 mil bolt here, two 4 mil bolts up here. That will lock the steering damper in place. The rest I'm hoping will go on without too much of an issue. We'll let you know when we get her done. And the last piece of the puzzle that I did today was the Flow Motorsport guards. I would like to say they dropped on, but finding instructions for this stuff is really hard. Nobody wants to print instructions anymore. So what I ended up with was a large gap between the guard and the frame. So I had some spacers laying around. That's not the final mount on that side. This is the final mount on this side. Simply because I have another washer in the back side there. That creates a very, very strong outer rad shell. If I was going cross-country racing, would I use it? Not this particular setup, I wouldn't. But for desert racing, where we're not going into the tight trees, I think it's going to be great. For the tight trees, maybe it's because I'm Canadian, I really prefer the Emperor Racing products that we sell here. The Emperor stuff will work quite well. The reason we didn't go with Emperor is because they run a big brace right through here, and the fuel tank already sits in that location just when we drop the fuel tank on, just to have a look. So that's about it for this video, and we shall see you on the next one.